All right, good morning, everybody. Guten Morgen. Welcome to my presentation, Secure by Design, Integrating Security into Development. So, hello, my name is Janna. I'm from Australia, far, far away. You can find me on Drupal.org. I've been involved with Drupal community for the last probably around 10 years, came from SharePoint, C#, .NET, React, and then migrated to Drupal because it was more fun. If you're in Brisbane or in Australia, say hello. We have a conference called Drupal South. If you're planning a holiday far away, it's only 2 days flight and 10 hours difference. Come to Sydney in March. There's plenty of time to plan your trip. It's very nice, it's very warm, still in March, and Sydney is a nice place, and you can travel around. And also in March, we have Sydney Mardi Gras, so it's a really big rainbow party all month long. So why should we talk about security, especially in the CMS, where most things are usually public, and especially Drupal CMS, which is well known for being very secure. So a lot of government organizations, especially in Australia and New Zealand, Drupal is used as a go-to platform for government, federal government, state government, web applications. So if the trust has been compromised, if something was published on your web application for, especially on a government level, and if it's exploited, if it's malicious content, malicious link, then this website cannot be trusted, and it's a big scandal, and so on. Like, if you remember just one tweet from Obama a couple of years ago and some other celebrities caused several hundred people lose $100,000s of dollars because it was a fake tweet to a fake Bitcoin. Basically, it was a scam. So that's a production, public information that available to all, but it's easily to scam it. So a disclaimer as well. So this is for developers. The security is on many levels. It's on an infrastructure level, networking, systems, human level. This is for application, although the levels do intersect. So you have systems engineers need to plan for antivirus software to be installed, but as Drupal developers, we need to install and enable and configure a module to use those antivirus systems. And our agenda, so what's secure by design, where did the term come from? They will run the Secure by Design project from the start. We'll look at enhanced security development practices, and we'll have an action list. And all the links and references are provided as a Git repo, so you can have a look at the project, at all the tasks, and all the links there. So Secure by Design term, I thought about it as mobile first, accessibility first, security first. So you build into it. And then later on, I found this government paper that actually defines secure by design and secure by default for the products. So it's a really, really good publication to have a look at. I'll talk about it a bit later as well. So we built in security as a requirement rather than as an add-on after you receive a penetration test result, and it's like, ooh, I need to fix all those things. So you do it first. So this is a paper where, which sort of defines and talks about the secure by design and secure by default. So secure by default for products, for example, when you buy your smart speaker or something, there's a password 000, or it used to be on even electric cars, where anyone can just connect to the electric car and say, oh, default password, no one changed it. So there was lots of hacks of electric cars just because of that. So secure by default for products is just make sure there's no default passwords. Secure by design for software. So it goes through a lot of different aspects that we'll have a look at. So this paper was created by lots of American, USA's governments, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and Germany, Netherlands have been involved as well. So it's a good timing for that. Also, I was digging around the Australian Cybersecurity Center and found a couple of papers specifically for content management systems and for software development systems as well. So these are specifically for development, as Australian government uses a lot of Drupal and other CMSs as well. And yes, governments do come late to the cybersecurity party. Cybersecurity hacking party started a long time ago, but they sort of catching up, and this is a really good start for a company when you don't really know when to start and what to do with the security. And of course, Europe, so many countries, you have your own cybersecurity agencies, your own guidelines, especially guidelines in the reporting requirements when security incidents happen. So make sure you know what your cybersecurity agency is and what the requirements, what are laws, what are the alerts. Have you received the recent alert from your agency? And of course, the Open Worldwide Application Security Project, OWASP Foundation. This is a stock standard of best practices for the security, the cheat sheets, the penetration testing guidelines. So if you know what's being tested in the penetration test actions, then you can actually harden those, look at those issues and make sure that they'll pass. Of course, different agencies do different types of penetration testing, and sometimes they're really thorough and they can find something really, really funky in your software, in your stack. But this one is a really, really good preparation for the penetration testing. So, based on all those publications by government and by the OWASP Foundation, let's have a look at our project. We're starting from the start. What do we need to do? What can be done, especially with Drupal? So the project setup, the Australian, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency says you have to have SAS and DAST. That's a guideline. And also you can look at the secrets management and cheat sheet, management cheat sheet from OWASP. So when you start a new project, you have all these different dependencies that you need. You need API keys to all the different SaaS services that you use. So make sure they're not being public, they're not being committed, that they're stored properly. So in our little project, we created 3 little tasks for that. So enable SAST, enable DAST, and define the secret management. You can define your secret management, where it's stored, and also create a pre-commit hook with Git Guardian, for example, that will not let you commit your changes if it detects there is an API key or password is in your commit. That's very handy, because there are monitoring software and hackers looking at the public repos on GitHub and GitLab, and it might cost you thousands of dollars. True story. So next, vulnerability disclosure program. So all of those papers talk about that if someone discovers a vulnerability on your application, you need to let you as a developer know that, oh yeah, there's this thing. And going from there, first you need to discuss it with your client, obviously, or the project owner. And then with Drupal, we have security TXT module. So install, enable, configure, and that will be a good start as well. So the security, if you haven't seen security TXT, acquia.com/security.txt is a good example. So it has all the emails where to send vulnerabilities that are discovered, and also the vulnerability disclosure program, like which vulnerabilities they accept, which ones they don't. And I have a list of white hat hackers who found actually good vulnerabilities. So it's like a hall of fame. So next one, HTTP security headers. So we have security headers to make sure that browsers become more secure. And at the same time, so the last one is from OWASP. It says, please remove your fingerprint framework application. So you know the header X generate, which is Drupal. There is a module for that. So this is a security header test from securityheaders.com. This is a test of govcert.jv.at. So this is Austrian cybersecurity agency, not doing a really good job with their headers on their major website. So do as you told, not as I do. Do as I say, not as I do. Anyway, so check your website. What's your score? It's really easy to fix. And to fix it, let's add another two tasks. So we have remove HTTP headers, so you can tell your the module to remove XGenerate and some other headers, so that it will be harder to fingerprint which application you're using, which Drupal. And then add security headers, which is Secret and CSP, and test it with securityheaders.com. So next, authentication. Drupal has a pretty good password policy, but there is a next level of authentication protection, and all these links talk about it. So so first we need to develop the strong password policy. Again, going back to the client with that. And the next one, these are just a few of the Drupal modules that can enhance your authentication. So you make sure that your session limit, you have a multi-factor authentication, that you have a strong password policy, and so on and so forth. So what would you estimate this task will take? And next, API security. Once you enable JSON API or any other API modules, that's another vector of attack, so you need to protect that. And there is all these papers that talk about how to protect it and what needs to be protected. And if we go back to our task system, so we need to configure cores, for sure. We need to configure rate limiting on the API, making sure that no one hits our server for too much. And there is an API security mega task. So just walk through all those and see what applies to your application and what needs to be configured and tested. And especially for JSON API module, if it's enabled in the core, you have to enable JSON API extras. And it really should be part of the core, because once you enable JSON API, all the public data is available through API calls. So you need to secure and what can be visible to actual users. So for example, this is some Australian government organization which has a partially decoupled website in Drupal. And you can see revision logs are public for everyone to see. So probably not a good idea. It might disclose something that might not be for public, and they won't be even able to say who disclosed it, who found it, what's in there. They don't know. And the last one production readiness. So what do you need to do to be ready for the production? So the Australian Cybersecurity Center specified, put it in writing. I haven't seen that anywhere else, that development, testing, and production environment has to be segregated. There are some providers, some hostings that don't segregate that. So you have everything on one server. That's not very secure. And also that you cannot do modifications in production. So development and modification of software only takes place in development environment. So whoever says, do it in prod now, no. And then you provide the login audits and file upload cheat sheet, which means make sure your antivirus is enabled and configured. So that would be our production mega task. So disable, restrict user one, removal unnecessary functionality, install and configure read only. So no configuration available on production. All the error messages supposed to go into your syslog, not dblog, and so on and so forth. So if you have license.txt, upgrade.txt, changelog.txt, any of those files available, those files will trigger penetration test failing because you can see which versions of the system, of the modules you use, and the perpetrator might try to abuse that. And you can do security review in the end of that as well. So this is our Secure by Design project. So it's just a shell of the project with 15 tasks that doesn't make your application super secure yet because you just need to configure it. And but this is the basic of it. So think about all these things that need to be done even before the project starts. And yeah, it just puts you in a security mindset. So security first, mobile first, accessibility first. You can estimate your project better. Now you can see all these tasks, which ones are required, which ones you can say, oh, this will take a whole month to do, but the next project may be faster. And you'll be compliant, but check your country's requirements as well. And there's also stuff to do after that. You've got implementations of CDNs and WAFs and HTTPS and TLS certifications, but that's for ops and down the line. So, and then let's have a look at the development practices. So from those publications, from the Secure by Design and OWASP and Australian recommendations, guidelines, they all talk about that just make sure you have framework, you parameterize all the queries, and you have all the encoding and things like that. And we're like, yeah, we're good. We got Drupal and Twig, and it's all fine and dandy, and Symfony, and of course, it just comes back to the human who develops it. And when I ran my statistics on Drupal.org, we still have quite a few SQL injections and XSS injections, scripting, so still quite easy to miss those as well. There are some easy fixes. Like Drupal core 10 has only 3 raw Twig filters. So if you have raw filter in your code base, make sure to ask why. It could be just a copy-paste of another developer who didn't really understand that it was, oh, that was easy. I'll just copy-paste, but no. And for database, use the abstraction layers, which is quite standard, but it's not really. And there are some not that really easy fixes. This one, for example, requires you to know exactly how HTTP works, so that you, in this particular response, a whole authentication token has been returned, and without cache control, it's been cached. So that's the easy way to leak some API keys from the memory, from the cache. And then just learn from Drupal security advisories, because you can really easy compare on GitLab what was there before and what was the fix. For example, cross-site scripting. Yeah, just add XSS filter. Quite an easy fix, but it's there in this maybe highly used contrib module. Or, for example, SQL injection just takes directly what's user agent. That can be anything. So you just use parameter into a SQL query. Easy replacement. If you want to have a look at other CMS, like WordPress had serious issue in March, which still is ongoing because not everyone have updated the plugins, but have a look what was the issue there, because it's highly used application as well, and how it was fixed. And then practice also on practice code reviewing, but with the security in mind. So, for example, if we review in a contrib module, are there any debug messages in the code? How module is configured? What's the routes? What's the tweak templates? Do they even have raw for displaying the data? And things like that. So, for example, if we can compare a Cloudflare module to this module, in the routing YAML, anyone can see an issue here? So it's a route to an admin page. Huh? Yeah, exactly. So anyone can access admin user way config page. Oops. So if you find something like that, report it to the developers of this. Okay. And action list. So for the next week, just not to forget what we've learned here, subscribe to a security advisory. Does everyone subscribe to Drupal security advisory? Does everyone know where to find your own country's security advisory? Has anyone received Citrix NetScaler alert 2 days ago? No? Well, anyway, this is there's a database of all the security vulnerabilities that are coming out, and you can search for Drupal and WordPress and everything else. So just subscribe to one of those. And read through those publications. The link will be later. And next week, search your code base for content raw, just to see how far the issue goes, and run the dependencies audit. It's quite easy with Composer. So in the next 3 months, brush up on your PHP Drupal secure coding standards and best practices. Drupal.org has a lot of good resources. I've got resources in the Git repo, so you can have a look at those as well. And schedule in-house security discussions with your team. First with project managers when they and salespeople. So when they get when they get a new client, you say, okay, so this is what we need to do for security. So ask the client how important security is to them, what do they need, so that we can prepackage out of those 15 tasks, which tasks we need to provide, so that we can estimate better the security implementation part of the project. And schedule regular knowledge sharing sessions with your development team. You can have a look at the Drupal.org vulnerabilities, the latest security advisory, how it was fixed, what was the problem, kind of find an issue type of session. And review your existing projects. Do you have anything to add, security headers or security TXT file, things like that. In the next 6 months, just deep dive into OWASP cheat sheets and web security testing guide. Can your current projects pass penetration testing? And maybe start your next project based on the security tasks first and see how long it will take to implement and configure all those Drupal modules. Everything is already there. And you can subscribe to OWASP, or you can try other online training. So Google Cybersecurity Certificate, Portswigger, Web Security Academy is a good one as well, or Secure the Flag training. It comes free with OWASP membership. And there is all sorts of YouTube videos from OWASP security conferences as well. And then you'll be a security champion. And this is a resource. So basically all the tasks you can download as a CSV. You can see all my links, and you can see the WordPress vulnerability and how they fixed that as well. There are some extras in that repository. If you have anything to add to it as well, create an issue, say, oh, this is a really good security two-factor authentication or some other module in Drupal that you use, that would be handy as well. All right, so if you have any questions, shoot.
Thank you for the presentation. The question from me is, what's the first thing if I don't have any security practices for my project, where to start with? You provided a quite comprehensive list of tasks, but what would you recommend as a first point of entry? Would it be Drupal.org website, some local resources, some international resources? Like where should the beginner start when they develop?
For the beginner, just go back to guidelines for software development. They're very, very basic. And OWASP Web Security Testing Guide. So that will be, it's a lot of information, but it has to be there. Drupal.org also provides a lot of, has a really good page on security. So probably for Drupal, yeah, just go there. And for larger scale security, it's OWASP Web Security. Yep.
Any more questions? Thank you very much, Janna.
Thank you.
I think like everybody were like very trying to process the information, so there weren't a lot of questions.
Yeah, no, and I ran through it a bit too fast, I should say.